So welcome to our kickoff 2021 Mastermind. So I like to do these about every 4 or 5 weeks, and it's always interesting as we get ready to put one of these on. I start asking everybody on my team, what should we talk about? And it was basically an overwhelming listings. Where do we get them? How do we get them? So what I want to do today is I'm going to take you guys through a couple of things, which is a little unusual. Normally during a mastermind, we're going to be a little bit more collaborative, but today I've actually got a couple things I'm going to walk you guys through that I think will give you a lot of help as you're starting to plan for getting some inventory. So just like, do me a favor, if you currently have buyers that cannot find a house to buy, put your hand up like this and just wave it in front of the camera. Yeah, that's look at all those waving hands. Yeah, that is the problem of the day. Having inventory shortages in every single market out there. And so what we have to do as agents, as brokers, is we've got to fundamentally solve that problem. And the only way we're going to do it is to go out and get some listings. So what I hope to do for you guys is give you some tools, tactics, and ideas on how you can go get some listings and some things that have worked for me. I will also ask if you guys look at the bottom of the screen, there's this little button that says reactions. It's so cool. I've been Zooming now for 2.5 years and I just found out about this thing. If you have something to add, just hit the raise hand button, right? Like Chip Parrish is here. He's in Trumbull, and Chip's already had his hand up, and then he had a party thing, and now he took it off. He's like, I don't want all the attention. But if you've got something to add, please go ahead and do that and use those. It just makes it a little easier. And what it does on my screen is it pops you up in front of me so that I know that you actually have a question. So, all right. So let me pop something open here, guys. So by the way, hello, my name's Matt. Those of you that don't know me, I'm with the Miale Team. We sold 460 homes last year. In the month of January, we were the #1 production real estate team at Keller Williams in New England by units sold, volume, and GCI. We've been in business since 2010. We're on a current mission to take our team and our models and systems statewide. And one of the ways that we found that we can influence and help everybody in the market is by doing things like this and hoping you guys see what it is that we do. So at any point in time, feel free to raise your hand, ask a question. The more collaboration, the better. And let's kick it off. By the way, use the chat box if you have questions. I would ask if Lauren, if you don't mind, just monitor that and just let me know if there's any questions in there that are super relevant. So you should be seeing a slideshow. Somebody give me a thumbs up. Yes, thank you, Deb Ortega. I see your thumbs. All right, it's February 2021, and there are officially no houses to buy in Connecticut. So we're going to go through a couple of things that you need to do fundamentally in order to position yourself as the economist and expert of choice so that you can go get some listings for yourself so that you can pay your bills in the month of May. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to review what the market of today is. This is the market of right now. This is super important. I actually got an offer today where an agent referenced a sale from October and said, we believe based on this sale from October that this house is worth X. That was one of 6 offers, and it was about $40,000 less than the other ones. We have to understand what market we're in. You've got to be the expert, the economist of choice in the market. That means your clients have to know who you are, what it is that you do, and do you have market knowledge that you can provide to them. I'm going to cover sources, people you should call that you can expect to or ask for listing opportunities. I'm going to cover what you should say, some scripts, some things that I'm going to try to empower you guys with dialogues and opportunities to talk about things that are going to help clients or potential clients give you their listing. And we're going to talk about some tools that are available, some that cost some money, some that are totally 100% free, that will help you guys create some efficiency in your business so that when you are prospecting, you can go get some new listings. So we do this every Monday. So for those of you that are on the team with me, you've seen this before, but I thought it would be really valuable for me to cover some of the data that's in the market so that those of you that are not diving deep into this like we are, you understand the dynamic that we're experiencing. So first and foremost, what you're looking at here is the average number of showings per day across the entirety of the Connecticut MLS. And if you look back all the way to January of 2020, what you're going to see is that in January of 2020, the average number of showings per day, meaning doors that were opened, was 3,410. You can see in February, we had very traditional seasonality showing up, more showings. And then there you go, March and April, that first gray bar all the way to the left, that was the first impact of COVID. So that was where COVID showed up in our market and really sank the activity in our market. And then very rapidly, a lot of very innovative people figured out that we could continue to be in business. We could continue to show property. Interest rates plummeted down to 2.5% or even lower for many people. And the real estate market started to take off. And that was really where that gasoline kind of hit.
Hey, Ezra.
So if you look at what we had in,
just trying to figure
really
things out.
Hold on, let's get some muting going on. So if you look at what we had from May, June, July, you can see where we just went gangbusters with the average number of showings. So 5688 average number of showings in June. In July, 5575. August, you had 4911. So it just got really, really busy. And then look at what happened, right? It started to trail off. So October, November, December of this past year. So what happened in November that was market influencing? Who wants to scream it out? What was going on in November?
Politics, election.
Politics, baby. Yeah. Lots of really distracting things. Storming the Capitol, right?
Election
Terrible things
day.
going on in the world. Everything's going. What happens when people feel uncertain and uncomfortable? They don't like to buy houses or make big financial investments. So when you look at the data in reverse, you can really see a story being told, right? So there it was, just like Hala said, we saw politics show up in our market in November and December, a lot of uncertainty in our market, and that made people not comfortable going out to buy houses. Then here we go in January, everything sort of came back to normal. The new president came in. By the way, I'm not making political commentary. I don't really care. The reality is that it just influences how people behave. So there you were in January, and we went right back to 3854 showings per day. Now, here's what's amazing. Our January this year, it felt like it was insane, right? It felt crazy. Did it feel anywhere near that crazy last January? No, but it really wasn't that much different. From an average number of showings per day, it was actually pretty close. We had 3410 showings last year. In fact, if you compared this past January to last February pre-COVID, I bet you didn't think that it was, and I bet you wouldn't have thought that last February was actually busier than this January, but it was from an activity standpoint. So the 4 weeks of January that you're looking at, which is right here, it starts with the gray bar. Those are the 4 weeks. And you can see that in the last 2 weeks, we've really peaked out at about 4,100 showings per day. So why is this important? It's important because it doesn't tell the whole story, but it shows you in perspective to the last year that our current activity right now is outpacing what we were doing in first quarter of last year, but it's not outpacing it by such a massive, it's not double, it's not triple. So what the heck's going on in the market? Well, let me show you. So this is probably one of the most telling visuals that you can get. If you look at, this is a 2-year representation of 3 things: total number of homes for sale, total number of homes that went under contract, total sold homes, okay? And the under contract and for sale percentage. So what I want you guys to look at, most importantly, is look at that red trend line. So through 2019, you see a very typical seasonal bump, which is the total normal real estate market that we would experience from January right through December, right? You've got a little camel hump there, pops up May, June, and July transactionally, kind of comes down. And then you see in the second half of this, the back half of this chart, you can see where COVID had an impact, February, March, April. And then look at the red line. Look at how much lower it is in the total number of homes for sale in the second 12-month segment than in the first 12-month segment. And in the same period of time, look at how much bigger the blue line and the green line are getting at the bottom of the chart. Visually, you can actually see the inventory in the market shrinking. The total number of homes for sale in the month of January 2021 compared to the month of January 2019 is 35% less. In the exact same time period, the number of homes that went under contract is 160% more. So you have a lot less houses for sale and a lot more people buying. I know that sounds super obvious, but what the impact of that is it drives prices up. So that's why our inventory shortage is starting to feel so much more pronounced than it did 6 months or even 12 months ago. Because 12 months ago, there was still enough in the market that it didn't have a huge impact on prices, right? There was still enough that if people missed out on something, they knew they could get something else tomorrow or next week. Right now, when is the next listing coming on? We really don't know. So prices overall over a 2-year cycle are up 35%. This is a really important thing to get your head around, guys. You can see the red line shrinking, the blue lines and the green line going up. The more that red line and blue line get closer, the higher that green line is going to get. That green goes up as the red goes down and the blue goes up. This is a good representation of how our average sales prices have gone. Now, if you look at a 10-year cycle on this, not to totally nerd out on you guys, but I do tend to nerd out a little bit. What you're gonna see is that for about 8 years prior to 2019, we were flat in Connecticut. We did not have price appreciation here. Nothing of any significance. It was always single-digit price appreciation. In fact, some years, year over year, we even went down. We would lose 1% or 2%, which by and large in our market, it's irrelevant. That's not relevant overall. But a 33% increase in sales price over 2 years is very significant. A lot of people, that's the difference between them being able to sell and make some money or them being able to sell and not make money. And you have to keep in mind, we've been flat really since the 2008 to 2012 recession. We never really had a big recovery here in Connecticut. So because of that, many people were sitting on their homes and they were paying in. And the only way they were getting out of those homes without owing money was by paying down the principal, right? In markets to our north and markets to our south, New York, New Jersey, Boston, New Hampshire, people were gaining value through appreciation. We were in a repressed market for a long time. So this is a really welcomed boost to our market. And this is how you having knowledge about this is why you're going to help get some of your clients to list their homes now versus later. I think you're raising your hand, Hala. Is that right? You're muted though. You can push the button on the bottom. I think you're muted.
Okay. So my question, I've been in the business since 2004, which is I start in high market, but never been like this. Crazy.
Yeah. No,
so,
it has, you actually used the exact correct words. It has never been like this. This is an unprecedented market. You just have to be hyper aware of the fact that these are conditions that have never existed before. And so, you know, there's a lot of what we're experiencing, some other markets have experienced, but as it's started to impact us, it's just impacting these other markets in even more of a pronounced way. So I want to go ahead, Hala. You had another question.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I have a question. Buyers who bought in 2005 or 6, because basically we didn't feel it until dip like 7, 8, 9, 10, until 11. Do you think 100% they can get their money? I have a feeling yes, and maybe a little bit more, maybe do like 2 to 5%. What do you think for seller? We can call those sellers now, they are, who bought and during this back then?
I think it's a great question. Obviously, it's a case by case. You know, it would depend on what they paid and what they bought it for. But the reality is that anybody who paid market value in 2005 should right now be looking at an opportunity to get out and make some money. I mean, I think across the board, again, everything's case by case, but 2000, we have surpassed in the last 2 years, we finally surpassed those market values. Let me show you guys this. This is absorption rate. And this is a tricky one for a lot of people to understand, but it's really, really critical that you get clarity about what's happening. Look at 2 years back in January of 2019. What the absorption rate is telling you is the total amount of available inventory that's sold in a given month. So you can see all of 2019, which really was the last unimpacted, externally influenced market that we had, that we started the year at 10.9% absorption, and we ended the year in December with 13.1%. We were on a very normal, healthy trajectory toward an increase in sales volume around our absorption rate. Now, again, that means that for every 100 homes that were for sale in January of 2019, 11 of them went under contract, okay? For every 100 homes that were for sale in December of 2019, 13 of them went under contract. It's a total market absorption rate.
Hey, Janice, good. How are you?
We got another conversation. Let's mute it. Who's talking? All right, we lost him. I wanted to hear what Janice had to say. All right, let's keep going. So here's why absorption rate is so important. What I want you guys to see in the last 2 months, especially the last 60 days, the reason that this year in January and February felt so much different than January and February of last year is because of this number. We sold in January 43% of all available inventory. So for 100 houses that were on the market, 43 of them went under contract. And what's really telling is look at the month before, 26%, 29%. So that number is going to continue to grow because we are adding inventory at such a low rate. So the number of new homes that's coming on the market, this is in January, we put 7,600 houses under contract and only 4,000 new listings came on the market. So going back, that's where that 43% comes from. Do you see that? You lose 7,600 and you only add 4,200. And if you do that long enough and look at that same cycle, each month it's been almost double the number of homes under contract compared to the number being added in. So our new inventory is down 21% from 2 years ago. But one of the most interesting things is look at January of 21, 4,100 new listings, and look at January of 20, 5,100. One of the things that we've discovered as we've been going through this is that the number of listings isn't actually really too far off. It's the demand that's really killing us. We suddenly have 7,600 people like in that same period, January of 21 compared to January of 20. So 3,100 people wanted to buy a house in January of 2020. 7,600 people wanted to buy a house in January of 21. We have double the number of people looking. It's not actually less listings. It's twice as many people buying and nowhere to put them. So we actually have to create more inventory than has ever existed. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is tricky. We don't actually have less homes for sale. We have twice as many buyers. So we used to wish for that problem until we had it, right? That's always the case. All right, so let me show you guys a couple more things here, and then we're going to get into some scripting around getting new listings. So your 4,100 in the month of January is what we added to supply new units for sale compared to 7,600 that went under contract. That tells the whole story. And look at that trend line continuing to go up. Very important to understand that. Under contracts are up 158% over a 2-year cycle. Total units sold, actually closed, is up 35%. So that's again, 2-year cycle, January of 19, 2,800, January of 21, 3,800. But look at January of 20, we were 3,100. It's not that big of a difference. We're still moving the same inventory. We just we have twice as many buyers. This is just a snapshot of Hartford County. And again, it's telling you the same story, just in a smaller cycle. 2019 compared to 20 and 21, down 23%. Down 33% for inventory available, up 57% for total under contract. And the month supply of inventory, we are currently down to 0.3. So less than a third of a month of inventory. All right, let me pause. What do you think? Let me hear your comments. What are you guys seeing? Chip Parrish, bring it, buddy.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Doing great.
This is great information. And one question I have is, I guess it's a two-part question. Number one, where is this demand coming from? And how important is it for us to understand that? Because I know I can get lost in the weeds on that kind of stuff.
So this is one of the things, like, I get it. So I answer your first question. Where is the demand coming from? We've got changing behavior patterns across the entire population nationwide. So you've got a bunch of people that have been locked in their homes, that have had to work from home, and you've got working environments that are no longer bringing people back to work. So you've got a modicum of just changing preferences among the population that are making people say, you know what, I think I want to buy a new house. In addition to that, you've got historically low interest rates that are driving some people that would normally be on the sidelines to go buy a bigger house and make a move. They want to sell the thing that they've got and go buy something different. In Connecticut, there is no question we are being influenced by urban migration from out of our state. And I'm going to get to this a little bit later, but one of the reasons is what I mentioned earlier about the repressed market that we have been experiencing over the last 7 to 10 years. So Chip, you moved to Connecticut. When did you move here?
Late 2016.
And you moved from Colorado, right?
Yes, sir.
What was the market like in Colorado when you moved here?
Just same way it is right now, white hot, just crazy.
Smoking hot, right? When you landed in Trumbull, were you surprised by the market here in Connecticut?
When I looked at the graphs in broker metrics, I thought the computer was broken.
I love it.
Flat line.
Yeah. So
is dead.
So when you spend time, and thank you for sharing that, Chip. When you spend time understanding what's been happening nationwide, because we've had a very strong economy, incredibly low unemployment rates, a really, really healthy and robust moving economy, and how that did not touch our state. It was like we were in a bubble, but it was a reverse bubble. We were getting no price appreciation, right? People were leaving, and demand was white hot everywhere else in the country. And it actually didn't make sense. There were a lot of us that were like scratching our heads, like, how come we're getting no fair share of this, right? And you would hear the undercurrent. By the way, you never heard it from me, because I can't imagine that you're a real estate agent and you want to like make fun of the place you live, but you would hear that undercut. The taxes are too high. Oh, the governor sucks. There's no jobs. You'd hear all that crap. Frankly, you can't sell real estate in a market that you don't have confidence in my opinion. But you heard everybody screaming and yelling about that stuff. But that didn't make any sense to me, because the taxes are crazy high in a lot of places where the real estate market was going nuts. So as you really peeled it back, what you realized was that there really was this evidence that supported that our market just simply was being overlooked. And so to answer your question, Chip, when people picked their head up from saying, you know what, I think I'm sick of living in New York. By the way, there's 12 million people that live in that one city. Like, that's a lot of people. There's 3 million in the entire state. If 10% of those people move out of New York and move to Connecticut, that adds another 25% to the population here. 10% of the city adds 25% to the population of the entire state. Like, that's a big impact. So that's 100% having an influence. Also, people are buying second homes. There's a lot, I've heard it across the board on our team. We've got a lot of people raising their hands and saying, you know what, my house in New York is worth $2 million. I didn't realize I could get a $300,000 house in the country. They call West Hartford the country if you're from Manhattan. I know that's funny, but anyway, they think that this is like, you know, this is Shangri-La, and they're just picking up a second home with interest rates at 2.5%. It's crazy affordable. So there is absolutely an impact from that. So, you know, I think that's going to be one of those rear view mirror statistics, Chip, that we're going to have better understanding of as we get a little bit further down the line. I know that MLS is tracking some of that. Again, it's only going to be as good as the information that they get, but we're going to be able to look at this 6 months from now or a year from now to see where the migration patterns came from and where all these buyers came from. But there's no question it's being impacted from outside of just here. So the other question you asked, Chip, which is a really important one, is how important is it to know this information? Here's what I think you need to know. You need to know the bullet points. You have to be able to talk to people about what's happening in the market in order to intelligently explain it and help them make a decision about what they want to do. So, and here's why. I'm going to get to this a little bit later in our conversation today. There's going to be some objections that are going to come up while you're talking to people about listing. And those objections, if you don't have the data to support, you're not going to be able to help talk them through it. So if you have the data, you can help support them. Like somebody might say, and we are going to talk about this, I'm not going to buy now. I'm just going to wait till the market cools off. Okay. What does that mean? Do they think that's like going to be November? Because it's not. Like, based on the data, we would suddenly have to add another 200% inventory for the next 8 months to get back to an even market. That ain't happening. Like, unless somebody miraculously figures out how to build houses without lumber, I mean, we can't solve this inventory problem quickly. So, and again, that takes the caveat of external influencers. So great question, Chip. We are going to dive a little bit deeper into that. I've got a couple hands. Devontae, you got a hand up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How's it going, Devontae?
Doing great.
Appreciate it. So my question is, one of the objections I get when I make my cold calls is I got secured a listing appointment. Is the fact that if I do sell, where I'm going to go.
Yeah, great objection. I'm going to talk about that. I got a script for you. I'm definitely going to cover that. How about Susan? You got it. Oh, can't hear you, Susan. I don't think your mic is working. All right. I think, see if you can figure out your mic, Susan, and then we'll come back. Or type your question in the chat box. If you type your question in the chat box, I'll grab it. All right, cool. All right, so let me go back to.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. There you go.
Okay, it was actually my exact question was I've been running into that like 1 out of 3 listing appointments or phone calls, and they're all saying, well, the market seems so hectic for buyers. Where will I go? Unless they're leaving the state, where will I go? And I really don't know what to say to them. So that was, a big objection I don't know how to handle.
I love it. I am definitely going to dive into that objection. I think I anticipated we would have that question. So awesome job, guys. Thank you. Perfect. All right, let me get back to the next topic here. So, all right, so let's talk about, first of all, the best sources for new listings, right? So the first thing we need to know is, because some of you guys are here, not only because you want to know how to handle the objections when you get a listing appointment, but like, where the heck do you get them from? Okay. And so the first thing, and always the first thing that you need to do, is you need to be talking to your sphere. That is the people you know and the people that know you. Now, a lot of you guys are petrified of doing that. You still like to call strangers instead of people that know you. Chip, one of the things that you asked about, do I need to know this information? The other reason you need to know this information is so you don't look like a dummy when you talk to your friends and family. That's the thing, right? We don't want to call our friends and family because we're like, what if they ask me a question I don't know the answer to? Well, if you are a market expert, there's no way they have those charts. They don't have them. You have those charts. They don't have those charts. You are immediately smarter. No reason for you to not call your sphere. So your sphere, this is the other question that people always come up with. Who is my sphere? Your sphere is anyone you know, prior clients, vendors, friends. I like to pull this one out on the team and nobody likes it when I do it. Your high school classmates. If you went to high school in Connecticut and your high school classmates don't know that you're a realtor, you're missing an opportunity. It doesn't matter what clique you were in or what group you hung out with. We're all grown-ups now. Call those people because they don't have a realtor yet. Like that's the whole, my high school classmates, I went to high school in New York. They all call me when they have questions in New York. They call me because they just know, because I've called them. So anybody is your sphere. Okay. The first conversation that you need to be comfortable with in your sphere is, I wanted to update you on what's going on in the market. It's a really, really simple conversation. And it's one that you have to have confidence having. So again, why do you need to investigate and understand all of these market statistics? Because when you are talking to your sphere, they're going to ask you what question comes up every time you talk to them. What's the
market?
There, who said it? Tracy?
Yeah.
Welcome to the party, Tracy. That is 100% correct.
Thank you.
That's what they say. How's the market? Right? And you can say something like the market's hot, the market's not hot, but you're going to be much more empowered to answer that question with the data that we just provided you guys. By the way, I'm going to show you where to get all that information. So if you want to get listings, you need to be empowering your clients with information about what's happening in the market. And there's nothing wrong with making 5 phone calls a day to people that you know and just simply saying, hey, I know I haven't talked to you in a while. I just wanted to update you on what's going on in the market. They may be surprised if you're doing it for the first time, but my clients that I've been doing this with for 15 years, they already know I'm calling. Hey, Matt, yeah, you just calling to update me on the market? Yeah, just wanted to let you know what's going on. Like, did you have any questions? Do you have any real estate related plans this year? It's a really simple phone call. You got to start with it. The other one that I think is way underutilized and another reason to reach out to your sphere. And again, we're most of the time not doing this because we're just afraid of what they're going to say, but you're in the business of being a broker. Call your sphere and tell them what your clients need. They will be your best advocates to help you find new opportunities. Hey, Tom, this is Matt. I have a buyer looking for a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house in Newington. Do you know anybody that has a house like that? It's a really simple question. And most of the time they're going to be like, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but I'll keep my ears out for you. Awesome. If you wouldn't mind, just let me know if you come across anybody. I know this stuff seems really obvious, but just how many of you guys are doing this every day? Here's the thing. When I started this by saying, wave your hand in front of the screen if you have a buyer that can't find a house, right? So are you waking up every day making 5 calls a day to people you know to find out if anyone you know knows somebody who has a house that might fit for them? That's how you're going to get listings. You're going to get listings by being a matchmaker in this market. Go find a house for them. They're out there. Those houses exist. You have the buyer. Call your sphere, call your advocates, go find the house. Sorry, I lost my screen. All right, awesome. The other one that I love this script. And again, if you're on the team, you've heard me talk about it quite a bit. I need a vendor. Who do you know? So in this market, one of the things that people, they get sort of numb to is the hot market script. So you can't call everybody you know every week and say, I wanted to update you on the market. You've got to come up with you got to have a couple other tricks up your sleeve. So another really great script is the I need a vendor script. So you've got to call your sphere and just simply say, hey, listen, I'm working on a deal and I'm looking for a plumber in your town. Do you have a plumber? I might also need an electrician or a roofer. Do you know anybody in your area that I might be able to work with? See, the thing about this is that you're reminding the people that you call that you're in the real estate. You're working on another deal. Oh, you got another unmuter. You guys hearing the echo? There we go. Better. So you're reminding everybody that you are in the real estate business. Oh, hang on. Lost my mouse. You're reminding everybody that you're in the real estate business and that you're servicing your client. What do you think the follow-up question is going to be when you call somebody and say, hey, just reaching out. I've got a deal closing in your town and I need a plumber. I was wondering if you had any plumbers, or I need an attorney, or I need an electrician in your town. Wondering if you know anybody that you could connect me with, or have you had any work done on your house, or maybe you know somebody that's in town or from school or from church or from the synagogue that might be able to refer somebody? Do you know anybody? And then what's their follow-up question going to be? What's the first thing they're going to ask you after they tell you whether they have a plumber or a vendor? Somebody say it out loud.
How's the market?
Yeah, there it is. How's the market? What's that you're opening to talk about? How's the market? You get to now tell them what you know. You get to be the market expert. Give them the information about the market and then follow up by asking, do you have any real estate related plans, or do you know anybody who does? It's actually a really great phone call. And you guys, if you do the I need a vendor call, you're going to be so surprised at how well received that is. Again, I know 99% of you guys are on this call, and most of us don't want to be salespeople, right? Because we're in the business of servicing our clients, and that's what really matters. That's what we really want to do. We want to do a great job and make people happy. And at the end of the day, we still need to go procure new business. It's still part of the equation in order for us to continue to move forward. So how do we do that? Well, it feels really dorky to constantly go out and try to sell all the time. You know, hey, who do you know want to buy a house? Like, we get overwhelmed by that call, and it feels tiring, especially in this type of market. But the I need a vendor call is just, it's just gold. It's a really simple way to communicate, connect with people, remind them what you do, to be of service to them, and then give you an opening to talk about real estate and give you an opportunity to potentially find a new listing. All right, another one that I think is really valuable that people underutilize. There's a house in your neighborhood that is selling, listed, or sold. Your sphere are people that you've already done business with. And if a house goes on the market on their street, isn't it appropriate for you to call them? Like, if you have a financial planner and you invest in a certain stock and there's a headline about that stock in the newspaper, it would be appropriate for your financial planner to call you and say, hey, did you see the news about GE? Did you see the news about Bitcoin? Did you see the news about GameStop? Right? If you're invested in those things, your financial planner should be the resource for information about your financial planning. You as a realtor should be the resource for information about what's happening in the real estate market. So when a house goes on the market in one of your clients' neighborhoods, it's an awesome opportunity for you to call them and just say, hey, I don't know if you saw a house went on the market in your neighborhood. They listed it at XYZ. It just came on. Or a house in your market, a house in your neighborhood just sold with 5 offers over asking price. It's crazy. I just wanted to give you an update. Wanted to let you know. Or a house in your market is going to be listed soon. So these are all good scripts and ways for you to contact your sphere. Now, all of this stuff, all this information is useless unless you decide to get into action. So my first thing today is I also not only want to give you guys the scripts and the dialogues and the things that you should say, but I also want to challenge everybody here to do this 5 times this week. Try one of these things at least 5 times before the end of the week and see what happens. And if you're really looking for the super easy one, do the I need a vendor one. The I need a vendor one is just super easy. And if you're thinking to yourself, geez, well, I don't need a vendor. Okay, then do the house in your neighborhood one, right? But these are super easy ways to reach out to your sphere, ways to get into important real estate conversations and to go find some opportunities. All right, let me pause. Comments and thoughts. Tracy Hines, your hand is up. You're muted. Anybody? There you go.
Okay, I'm here. So I have met or put at least 5 people in rentals in the last 2 weeks that were buying with another realtor, but lost out on multiple bids and are just like over the market.
Yeah.
How do you flip that?
How do you get somebody that's over the market into the market?
Or buying, it's kind of a delicate situation because they have a realtor that they were buying with, and now they've come to me on a rental referral.
That's a tricky one. I don't even know that I'm wading into that shark infested water.
All right.
Yeah, I think
I figured I'd wait a year and keep dripping them.
You know, I'll let's talk offline, Tracy. But I think that that's a really tricky thing to try to navigate. Yeah, I don't know that there's an easy way to do that.
Okay.
So, all right, let me move on. Good. Any other questions or comments about, you know, dialogues and ways to reach out to your sphere, the people you know and the people who know you? Anything surprising? All right, show of hands. How many of you are going to do this at least 5 times this week? Let me see your hands. So those of you that aren't going to do it, what's the deal? What up? You didn't like what I had to say? All right, fine. That's fine. All right, let's keep going. All right, how about FSBOs and old expireds? This is another one that we tend to we talk about them too much, but we don't actually get into action around them. So really, really simple. I think right now, FSBOs they tend to do 2 things. They either overprice or underprice. One of the agents on our team last week called a FSBO, called him in the morning. The guy massively underpriced his home. He went out in the afternoon, he listed the house, and I'm fairly certain we put that under contract. Is that right, Derek? Is that already sold? Could say yes or no. Anyway, FSBOs are a great resource. I would absolutely be calling FSBOs, because you know what FSBOs don't have? They don't have market knowledge. And so
it's under contract.
Under contract. So less than a week, he called a FSBO. Guy was underpriced. Derek said, listen, man, you're missing the mark. He went out, listed the house that day, and then already sold it. And that's all in a matter of like maybe 7 to 10 days. FSBOs
3 hours.
What's that?
3 hours. He was on 3 hours FSBO, and we got him listed that day, and then he was under contract in 18 hours.
There you go. So a 21-hour turnaround time. The guy went from underpriced to sold because we made the phone call, because Derek made the phone call to say to him, hey, man, I think you're missing the market. Remember, these guys they're generally making decisions based on rumor, right? They're hearing my neighbor's house sold, such and such sold, such and such sold, right? They're not being informed. So your job is to call them and just ask them, look, we don't like calling FSBOs because they hate when we call. So they're mean to us, right? So like that's fine. But if you can call and just simply say like, hey, I just want to be a resource for you. I want to have a quick conversation. I see that you're selling by yourself, and I'm certain that we're going to be able to produce a buyer for you, but are you familiar with what's actually going on in the market, with what the trend lines are? So there are absolutely opportunities out there with for sale by owners. Now, old expireds might be the untapped gold mine. Okay. This is a massive, massive opportunity, guys. Okay. These are expireds that expired 3 years ago. I'm not talking about 3 months ago. I'm talking about 3 years ago. People that tried, got really frustrated, had a terrible experience. Maybe they even went through 2 or 3 real estate agents and just had a bad time trying to get their house sold. Usually some of them, right, they tried to sell and then they rented. That's another one that I would look for. I would get in there and look for old expired listings that turned into single family home rentals, right, that are now rented sometime in the last year or 2 that were rented. Those properties are occupied by tenants. Those leases are going to be coming up at some point in time. And that person that made that choice didn't necessarily make that choice because they wanted to rent. They might have made that choice because they couldn't sell at a price that made sense for them at the time. So I want you to look at this as a resource. For sale by owners and old expireds are out there. There's tons of them. You're not going to get new expireds anymore. There's very few. I know we look at it daily and it's single digits every day. So there's not going to be a lot of new expireds, but you can get after some old ones. Mary Beth, I see you got a hand up. Did you have a question? You're muted. You want us to unmute you?
No, my raised hand was when you said raise hands. Instead of doing it this way, I did it on my
Awesome.
computer.
All right, no question.
To do it
That's
5
fine.
times this week.
5 times. Let's see it. All right, I love it. All right, so one of my other favorite phone calls to a FSBO or an old expired is what I call the research call. And what you're doing here is you're actually not calling them to get a listing. You're calling them to get information. And why this is so powerful and important is because most FSBOs and expireds, they hear from a lot of real estate agents that are calling and asking the same question. Do you mind if I ask, when are you planning on putting your house back on the market? By the way, that works. I'm not making fun of it. It works, but they're used to hearing that question. So there's a very different approach, which works really well if you call for sale by owners and old expireds. And the way that call really goes is, hey, I'm calling because I'm doing a little bit of research on behalf of a buyer who's looking for properties in your area. I noticed that your house was previously on the market and isn't anymore. Do you mind telling me what happened? Did you sell it? Now, we know that they didn't, right? So it's a little bit, just being fair, guys, it's a little disingenuous when you ask the question, but when they say, no, I didn't, the follow-up question is, how come you didn't sell it? What happened? Then you're going to get into a conversation, which is the most important part. At that point, you're going to be able to, because you're a market expert, deliver the market information to this person through research, and then find out where are they at in their process. Are they actually considering getting their house sold again? This is an old expired. You're just doing some research, looking on behalf of a current customer that you have. By the way, some of them have sold, so it's not that unusual if you ask, right? Especially if they're really old. Sometimes they sell off market and you don't see it in MLS. So same script, by the way, for sale by owners and old expireds. Hey, I'm just calling to let you know a house in your neighborhood just sold, was just listed, is selling, sold over asking price. Be the information resource rather than the salesperson. All right, comments and questions. Who's got success with this? I know Derek is all over FSBOs and expireds. Joe, you got your hand up. I know you're getting a lot of appointments with this. Who else is comfortable getting after for sale by owners and old expireds? I see Haley's got a hand up. Haley, you got a hand up. You've got some experience with it. Tracy? Yeah.
No, Matt, I actually don't have any experience with it. I'm brand new, but I just had a question for you. Where are you getting the phone numbers for the people in the area of the people? I'm sorry. Let me reiterate. You were just talking about the fact that you were calling other homes around houses that had just sold. Where are you getting those phone numbers?
Great question. So there's a lot of tools out there. There's, I think we are currently using Mojo. There's tools called RedX, Mojo. There's several different subscription tools that you can get into and pull up, local neighborhood phone numbers. They're out there. They're not terribly expensive either. I think they're usually, I don't know, maybe $100 a month, something like that. It's a subscription service. But there's several. There's several of them out there. Land Voice is another one. Yeah, there's a bunch of them, and you will want, if you're going to be, really effective as a prospecting real estate agent, you're going to need a service like that. Like, there's just no question. It's just way too difficult and cumbersome to try to find people's phone numbers any other way. It's part of the operational cost if you're going to be prospecting. By the way, you don't need that. You can build a huge, tremendous, successful business working just with people and networking. And so I'm not telling everybody here to go out and subscribe to something like that. But if you think that circle prospecting for sale by owners or expireds are going to be part of your business plan, you will need some kind of subscription service to look up people's phone numbers. So Devontae, you got a hand up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I had recently gotten, in a conversation with a FSBO about they're going more towards the fee, paying a flat fee just to go for the MLS compared to just paying. So it's like them convincing them to, confide and work with a full service realtor.
Yeah.
How do you get around that?
So some people are not worth getting around. That's my answer to that. Is that every once in a while, right? You got to remember that not everybody is going to be the right client for you, right? The number that you have to be super comfortable with, and everybody on this call just needs to burn it in their brain, is 160,000, because 160,000 transaction sides are going to happen in the state of Connecticut this year. So if there's going to be 160,000 opportunities to buy or sell or represent a client, right? Do you actually need to spend a ton of energy on the one guy who says, I'm going to do it myself, list it myself? Like, no, you don't. Like, call them. If they're not willing to meet with you pretty quickly, and they're like, no, I'm going to do it myself, I'm going to list it myself, and they really don't want your service and your advocacy, then my advice is generally just move on. Like, let them try it, especially if they've already committed to that. Especially if they've already committed, like they're like, I just paid the fee, I'm putting it on myself. Some people are going to be willing to meet with you, and that's totally cool. But if they're really giving you, a hard stop, I'm generally a next guy. It's okay. Like, no problem. Like, just so you know, like I'll usually try to deliver a little bit of value in the conversation. Like, hey, I'm just looking at homes like yours that have sold recently. And, I think that I could add some value if we were to get together. Would you be willing to talk to me about what it might look like if I were to list your home? If I could make you the money that you would have to spend if you could make that much more money working with me. Would you be willing to? And some of them will say yes.
Gotcha.
So, you know, but if they're really hard pressed, like, no, I don't, you don't actually, it's going to sound corny, but you don't actually have to fight that hard. Like there's enough out there, you know, there's enough fish that will bite and people that do value what we do, that if you've got that one person that just wants to beat you up, like there's nothing wrong with moving on. Nothing
There's
wrong
ego
with
for
that.
them. Gotcha. One more thing, one experience I had too as well, in the perspective that I learned was that, you know, with the FSBO, it's like, you know, they get that ambition, that spurt for about 2 or 3 weeks, then they start to die down after a month. So even if I feel like you come into them in the sense of, all right, so once you ask them, when you do sell, what do you plan on doing?
Yeah.
So I feel like even if you come back around, you know, they're going to look, especially if you continue to follow up, they'll come back to you like, hey, even if they do sell, you're going to need a realtor to help them buy. And if they, you know, if they plan on staying in state. So it's like trying to, you know, and then if they can't sell, boom, you get them right back with the listing. So that's where I kind of like picked up.
There's a good script to use, like particularly with somebody like that says, no, I'm going to do it myself. You just say, okay, that's awesome. So you want me to call you in like 4 or 5 days if you're not sold, and then we'll get together? And they go, what do you mean 4 or 5 days? And you go, listen, man, if you're not sold in 4 or 5 days, something's wrong. Like, just leave them with that. Just leave them with that.
True.
And they go, really? It's like, yeah. I mean, and you know, if you want, we can talk about it now, or we could talk in 4 or 5 days. But right now in this climate, you should be sold in 4 or 5 days. And if you're not, there's something wrong.
Definitely.
And just leave them with it. And they may be mad at you, but it will stick with them, and they'll remember what you said. And then 4 or 5 days, if you call them back, chances are they'll be like, all right, it didn't sell. What's wrong? You should say, all right, now you want to meet with me. All right, I'll tell you what's wrong. When can we meet? You know?
Gotcha.
So awesome. All right. So again, for sale by owners, old expireds, a house in your neighborhood is selling, listed, sold is again another really, really great script. Just be a market expert, guys. Like, be a market expert in a market, be a market expert on data. And when you have all of that working for you, it's a lot easier to be engaged in conversations with potential clients. All right, let's talk about circle prospecting. Same scripts, by the way. So circle prospecting is this is, again, you're using the same model as calling FSBOs or expireds, but what you're doing is you're calling in an area where a new listing has gone on the market. Okay, so something new has gone on the market. You have a listing that's gone on the market. Somebody in your office has a listing that's going on the market. And all you're doing is you're making neighborhood calls. These are also phone calls that are very well received. Like, yes, they're cold calls. Just get over it. These are cold calls. You're calling somebody totally cold. They aren't expecting you to call. But when you call them and say, hey, this is Matt Miale. I'm calling I'm a local real estate professional. I wanted to just reach out to let you know that a house on your street is going to be going on the market in the next 2 weeks. And we generally like to let all the neighbors know when we have a house coming on the market, so that you might have an opportunity, or you might know somebody who might be looking in the neighborhood or be interested in looking at that home. And we like to just make sure that the neighbors know who to reach out to in the event that they have any questions or concerns, right? What do you think the next question is? How's the market? Like, that's the next question, right? You're providing a service, you're calling them, you're letting them know. And then they ask, how's the market? What's it going to be listed for? Those are, again, all opportunities for you to engage with people that you've never met before in conversations about real estate. Not everybody's going to be a seller. That's not the point. The point is to be the expert that they rely on when they do have a question. And if you make enough phone calls like this, you talk to enough people about real estate, you're going to find people that are going to say, it's funny you called. I was just thinking about selling. Or, wow, I didn't realize the market was that hot. Maybe I will consider selling. There's enough of those people out there that it's on their brain. They're just waiting for somebody to reach out to them and talk to them. You just have to be super comfortable and confident with making those phone calls. We do a lot of circle prospecting on the team. I think it's one of the most effective ways to just get new people into your pipeline. The thing to understand also about circle prospecting, I think one of the things that in general, real estate agents make a mistake when they try to prospect for right now. It's really challenging to do that. But what you do create are new relationships, or people that say, it's interesting you called. We aren't ready to list our house now, but we were thinking that if things continue, this year, we might be listing a little bit later. Awesome. That's really good to know. What wouldn't it be valuable if I came over to give you an assessment of what the market looks like right now? And then we can keep in touch as we get closer to when you're ready. Like, it's all about trying to get into bigger and better relationships. So any other questions? Anybody else have any comments? I think we got a bunch of hands up now that people aren't actually asking questions. I don't know. Check and see if your hands are up. If you have a question, make sure yours is up. All right, moving on. Couple other resources, guys, places where you can find good listings. So somebody brought it up earlier. Hala brought it up. Do you think that people who bought in 2005, listen, a great prospect is somebody who bought anytime from 2005 to 2012, because they simply don't, if they do not have market knowledge or understanding of what's happening, right? By the way, this secret will be out very soon. It's not going to be some top secret thing that the market's hot. People will generally be aware of it, but you want to be at least talking to them, because those are the people who have recognized zero appreciation in their home up until this year, right? So they bought their house. Their house was worth $400 when they bought it, right? And then 7 years later, their house was worth $408,000. Right. And then 5 years after that, it was worth $411,000. And then now it's worth $460,000. What just happened? Like, what just happened? They suddenly have an opportunity to do something they've never had before, which is sell their home at a profit and get into potentially a nicer, bigger home that they've been waiting to get into until they paid enough principal down. People who bought in that time period are really good prospects. Just do MLS searches in neighborhoods where your buyers are looking. Like, go into a neighborhood where you have buyers that want to buy a house, pull up an MLS search of every property that's sold between 2005 and 2012 that meets the criteria, right? And do some door knocking. Go knock on a door. Just say hello. Like, hey, I don't know if you know, but the market's crazy hot and we have people looking to buy a home in this neighborhood. Rental properties. So if you own a rental property right now, those are investors. Rental property owners are savvy. They like to make money. That's why they own rental properties. So rental property owners, I guarantee you, are going to be having a conversation with you about selling their home at the peak of the market. Rental property owners understand the concept of buy low, sell high, right? Really straightforward. But that's what so if you get into a dialogue, hey, the market's super hot right now, and have you considered selling? So for rent listings are a great place to find these. Go to Craigslist and look for empty apartments. Any landlord that's got an empty apartment right now will consider selling because it's maxing out their value, right? They're selling at the peak of the market. And if they have an empty, they're in pain. They don't like having empties. So if there's an empty apartment sitting there and you call them and say, hey, listen, I noticed you have an empty apartment. Just out of curiosity, I have a client that would be willing to buy your home because they're looking for an owner-occupied investment property. Would you consider selling? I mean, that's an easy conversation. Some of them might say, no, I make a ton of money. I do really well. But then what do you think their next question is going to be? How much you think it's worth? Baby? They're going to go, how much you think it's worth? Go, I don't know. I'd have to come out and take a look at it, but I'd be up for that. If you want me to come take a look at it, I'll take a look and I can give you a value. And, if it's something that you'd consider, then maybe we can work out a deal. So rental properties are another great resource.
And like,
oh, I've got an unmuted. All right.
Rustic beige color.
Sure.
I don't know. It's just me that gets. Let's see. All right. I think we're good. Okay. Vacant and unoccupied homes. Another really, really good resource, guys. You've got to go check out any neighborhood or any property where there's no one living right now. That is an opportunity. That is a definite opportunity for you to get a listing. I don't know if you know where they are. I think one of the things that's really fascinating is that vacant homes tend to just get overlooked. Like, you drive by them over and over and over again and you barely pay attention to them. But start looking for vacant and unoccupied homes, particularly when you're out doing buyer tours. If you're out doing buyer tours, showing property to people, look for vacant homes while you're driving. Be conscious of that. Because if you find a house, there's, right now it's super easy to find them because there's snow on the sidewalk, right? Or the driveway hasn't been plowed, right? Or there's snow tracks that drive in and out, but nothing else going on there. Those are really, really hot properties if you can identify who the owner is. So really be conscious of the fact that vacant and unoccupied homes, those are people that, again, they're owning their house. There's a reason that they're unoccupied, and nobody likes hanging on to empty property. It's just not doing any good. They're paying taxes on it. They're paying insurance. They're keeping up the heat. Those are other sources for good, for listing opportunities. All right. This one's going to, I don't know, hit the radar a little differently, but I think divorce attorneys in general, financial planners, accountants, those are awesome resources right now for listing opportunities. What you want to do is you want to call these people and you want to let them know that you want to be their local resource to help them understand the market so that they can provide that information to their clients. So you're not calling a divorce attorney and saying, hey, you got people getting divorced because I want to list their house, because that's super corny and awkward and not a really valuable thing to provide. You want to call a divorce attorney and say, hey, listen, I'm looking to build relationships in my market with people who would find value in having a local real estate professional as a resource. It's my understanding that your clients probably, in many cases, will have an asset that they need to dilute as part of a divorce. And I would like to help you be empowered to help talk to them about what the real estate market looks like. So would you be open to me giving you a call once in a while with an update on what's happening in the market? They're going to say, yeah, sure. That sounds good. Awesome. Anytime you have any questions, you can call me anytime. Here's my phone number. And by the way, there is an increase in COVID divorces. So that, as corny as it is, that does mean that there are more houses to be sold because people are splitting up. So attorneys in general and financial planners and accountants are also really great resources for, because people call them when they have real estate related questions, right? So if you if you have attorneys, just, family practice attorneys that you know of, people that are, in your neighborhood, people that are related to you, you just want to use that same script. You want to call them up and just say, hey, listen, I'm looking to build relationships with attorneys who might find value in having real estate market data available. I just want to be a resource for you. And would you be okay if I called you once in a while with an update on what's happening in the market? They will always say yes, because they, by the way, are going to be interested. And what do you think their next question is going to be when you call them? How's the market? They're going to ask because they're going to be curious. So these are other really great resources and vendor relationships. I think one of the things that you've also got to get okay with, guys, you don't need to only have one. Like, we sort of somehow feel like we're filling buckets, like we're checking boxes, like, oh, I got an accountant, I got an attorney, I got a financial planner. Like, you should call every financial planner in the town that you work in and have that exact same script available. You could build an entire business around being a resource for financial planners. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a really good way for you to go out and find new opportunities. All right, let me pause. Questions? Has anybody had some success with this stuff? Any comments, questions, thoughts, ahas, thinking? No? Moving on.
As a new agent.
Hello, new agent. What's your name, new agent?
Evelyn
Hello, Evelyn. How are you?
Mendez. I'm good. Thank you. So should I be focusing on just one area, one type of way to do business, or like I'm having trouble getting organized as to where to focus?
So, Evelyn, you have a phone, right?
Yes.
You got contacts in that phone?
Yes.
Have you called them yet?
Not all of them.
All right, there's where you start. Call them all. That's it.
Okay.
That's your first step. You don't like my answer. That's okay.
No.
Most people don't like my answers, but that is the answer. The first place you start is the people in your phone. You got to start there. And once you finish with the people in your phone, go to your neighbor's house on the right of you, go to your neighbor's house on the left of you, go to your 5 neighbors across the street. Once you're done with that, go 1 block over and do the same thing. Start with what's close, because what's
Okay.
close is always going to be the highest yield, highest return opportunity. If you start calling strangers, it's going to take a really, really long time for you to develop the confidence and the scripting and the dialogue that's going to help you navigate those conversations in a way that's efficient. It's a very heavy lifting experience. And so the best way for you to get into business quickly is to go to the people you know and the people who know you, always. So
Okay.
as a new agent, that is always the first thing we tell people. And by the way, we also encourage people to get on the phone and call strangers at the same time, because not only do you need to talk to the people you know, you need to know more people. Those are the two, that's it. If you know more people and talk to the people you know consistently all the time, you'll have plenty of business. They'll refer it to you, especially if you're the market expert and you have all the knowledge, because you'll constantly be the person at the center of the wheel that they want to come back to and learn from. So I love the question, Evelyn. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let me take one more before I move on. Anybody else, comment or question?
I got one more.
All right, Devontae's bringing it today. I love it, man. Thanks for the energy. Appreciate it.
Man, positive vibes. So what I noticed too as well with dealing with investors is the fact of the renters piece. It's too much of a liability. So in a sense, they're more motivated to dilute their assets or their properties because, one is going in place with, COVID and the renters not having the right to pay. So I feel like that is another way to secure listings too as well. But the thing is with that, the downside, I feel like the kind we're dealing with, especially dealing with that right now personally, is the fact that working with the tenants to be able to show the properties to these buyers that's on the market. So that's where I'm at right now with
yeah, that is definitely a challenge. And, it's one of those things that comes with experience. There's a system behind it, right? And especially in a market like this, if you're really good at explaining to the tenants why it's in their best interest to cooperate versus not, right? Yeah. Then they get it pretty quickly. And here's the reason. So the landlord's going to be selling the property. There's two ways this will go down. One, it will be long drawn out, cumbersome and disruptive for everybody. The other, it'll be really quick, not disruptive at all. And you'll get to meet your new landlord pretty quickly. So my job and my hope is that I can help you get the latter, not the former. The best way for us to do that is for us to agree on some ways that we're going to show the property. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to agree right now that you'll be open to showings from this time to this time every day and on weekends. How does that sound? That means that you'll have these other times that you won't have to show it. Would you be open to that? And if I do that and can get the house sold within a week, then in a week, we're over it. You're done.
On the money.
Right.
That's
by the way, my tactic for this always is I flip every tenant a $50 gift card to a local restaurant every time. And if you do that, they're so on board with, they're just like, really? You're giving me dinner? And it's like, I'm prepaying because I know this is going to be annoying. When you have a couple showings one night, just go out, get yourself some dinner one night on me. Just, if you have any questions or anything, I'm going to be your resource. You got to be careful not to be the heavy. You want to go, you want to go and be the tenant advocate. At the same time, you're representing the seller, but the tenant's frustrated, and you got to remember what their shoes are. They're very concerned. What's going to happen to me? I live here. This is their home, right? Their home is being sold. Like any one of us would freak out if that was happening. So you got to be really conscious of like what their emotional experience is around it. If you go to them, you flip them $50 and you just say, hey, this does not have to be super disruptive or frustrating for you. We're really good at it, but let's just agree on how we're going to do it. And once we agree on that, then we should be able to get this done pretty quickly. And that's all they need to hear. They want to know somebody's in charge. It's not going to be, a shit show.
Exactly. That's what I needed.
All right. Awesome.
Appreciate that.
Karen, you have a question?
I do. I actually am experiencing a lot of buyers and sellers who are wasting my time, having me come out to the house. What do I need to do to sell it? They don't want to sign. Oh, I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah.
A lot of excuses. I'm also getting we're going to wait for the COVID bubble to pop. I'm purchasing leads and nobody leaves their phone number. I can't get anyone to respond to an email for months.
Right.
How do you handle this? I mean,
I've
spent months and hours.
You gave me solid 7 things to address. So let's do this. let's talk about objections. At the very end of this, I'm going to go through some objections, and a couple of the ones that you brought up are ones that I'm going to talk about. So
Okay.
let's table those.
Okay.
As far as paying for leads, not a fan. So
I'm not a fan
at
either.
all. I don't do it. Like there's not, all you're actually doing is paying for somebody to give you, to give you something that somebody filled out online most of the time. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of value in that. You can, if you just get on the phone and call people that you know, it's the same as getting most internet leads, right? But we're just, we want it to be easier. But here's the answer. It's actually not. Most internet leads are no good anyway. It's just the
No.
same as calling the phone book. So I just, not usually what people want to hear, but that's just my guidance around that. But let me move on. I'm going to get to objections and I'm going to address those, Karen. But great objections. I'm glad you brought them up. Thank you. Next time I do this, I'm going to put the objections up front. So everybody goes, I know these objections. Here's what we're going to get to. So, all right. Let me go back. Okay. All right. So let's talk about what you should say. Oh, and by the way, Karen, you brought up the COVID-19 bubble. So here's a couple of scripts that you guys need to get super comfortable with. And I've touched on these, but I'm going to give you a few sort of bullet point scripts that you can use in any conversation that you get into with somebody about the market. Okay. So the question is, how's the market, right? That's the question that you're always trying to get people to, because when they lay that out to you, when they ask you, how's the market, what they're really asking is, would you show off your knowledge for me and tell me what an awesome professional you are, right? That's what I hear when somebody says, how's the market? And I'm like, awesome. This is my at bat. This is my moment to hit the fastball out of the ballpark, right? This is it. This is the thing. So the COVID-19 impact script, okay? This is a really important one. So what you want to say to people is, listen, the market right now is unprecedented. We are experiencing things that we've actually never seen before in the state of Connecticut. And most of it was driven by the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. You see, last year, we were in a pretty traditional real estate market, very flat here, not a lot, where our supply was outpacing our demand pretty consistently. When COVID hit and the shutdown happened, the Fed dropped interest rates down to 2.5%. And when they dropped interest rates, it created a ton of demand at a time when anybody that was in their right mind would never have considered putting their house on the market, right? Who would list their house during an international pandemic with a virus that most of us thought might wipe out 90% of the population? It was scary. So nobody put their house on the market. And all of a sudden, a bunch of people decided that now was a good time to buy. That created a massive deficit in inventory. And the reality is we have not caught up from it and probably aren't going to for some time, because in addition to the demand that came as a result of interest rates coming down, we also got a massive influx of people moving in from out of our area. And something else happened. Those people that moved in from out of the area also started to indicate changing buyer preferences. So the people who did live here also wanted to participate in this market. So we suddenly have way more people that want to buy than want to sell in an environment where it's much cheaper to own property than it used to be. Even though prices are going up, that interest rate impact is very significant to what people can afford. So you want to get super comfortable with that one. All right. Did you guys get some bullet points out of it? Yeah. That's kind of the COVID-19 interest rate script, right? I kind of merged the two. So let's talk about why Connecticut is booming. Connecticut has been repressed as an area for well over a decade. In our market, we have not seen anywhere near the national appreciation rates or even the appreciation rates of markets just to the north and just to the south. So over a 10-year period of time, those other markets were increasing 15 and 20% per year, and we were increasing 1 to 2%. If you take a snapshot of the Northeast in this country, Connecticut is still one of the most undervalued markets based on the population density, the number of opportunities that are here, the average salaries and incomes of the people who live here. We are very, very undervalued. So if anybody wants to live in the Northeast and is looking for a place where they can get a great quality of life and a really nice home, and they stumble across Central Connecticut, they're going to think it's a deal, even in this inflated market. We still are an absolute steal of a market, still at this moment in time. So when people ask, hey, or when people say, I'm going to wait for the market to cool off, the reality is it might be another 10 years. We're in a slingshot effect right now. Our market is catching up to everything else around us. And oh, by the way, those markets are not slowing down. So this isn't going to be a 6-month bump. And by the way, the other thing that's really important, you got to get clear about what happened in 2007 and 2008. That run up was as a direct result of speculation, a lot of speculative buying and bad mortgages. That's what drove that market. So there was a surplus of building, there was a surplus of inventory, and they were and mortgages were being given out to people. People were owning 5 and 6 homes. The difference is we are in a low inventory market right now. See, then it was cheap money and nobody had to pay the bill. Now it's just a lack of inventory. This is a very traditional supply and demand, like basic economics problem. This isn't going to change until somebody figures out how to build more homes. And by the way, nobody's building homes because the cost of lumber is up by 60%. And the supply chain disruption that we've experienced over the last year has made it near impossible for builders to predict how many homes or how much it's going to cost for them to build. So this is not a problem that's likely to go away in the next 6 months, 8 months. My prediction, at least a year. All right, comments or questions? Thoughts about those scripts?
Can I talk? Matt?
Yes.
Hi. I did use this exactly, not as you. I'm not savvy, but I did use the same scripts for somebody who wants to list their home, and it's almost like $600 home. And I don't know, I forgot. I'm going to meet her tomorrow, and she has 8 property to sell after.
Nice.
She wants to move to Florida. And I use the script about why people moving here to Connecticut. And definitely, I told her, I can tell you what the market is for 2 months from now. And believe me, I cannot predict for June, because even June, it sounds so close, but we don't know what happened if more people will put their houses on the market. And last, like maybe 8 months when I met her before, there's not a lot of sell, but yesterday when I talked to her, there's a lot of sell and appreciation in Connecticut. And she wants to move to Florida. And I told her, this is the best time. I tell you and guarantee you will get the best and highest price in this market. But if you want to wait more, I can't. And I don't know if you want to stay another 10 years in Connecticut, because we never had this appreciation. And she decided to list her house. Tomorrow I'm meeting with her. And after that, I'm going to get her mom's house and another 8 property, hopefully down the road.
Hey, Hala, just get ready for every agent to text you and ask you, hey, where's that house? I got a buyer. Because everybody here is like, wait, you got 8 listings? I got a buyer for those. So get ready.
I'm selling hopefully it was like referral from Keller Williams in Florida, to be honest.
That's great. Fantastic.
Yeah, but it's going to be her house first and mom. And after that, hopefully the 8 investment property she has.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Listen, these scripts, what I just gave you guys, those scripts, those are the dialogues you have to have command over. You've got to know the market of right now. Why is right now a good time to sell? What happened? Give people the explanation and help them understand what it's leading to. So Chip, you raised your hand. What do you got, buddy? Chip, you're muted. Are you?
I'm here.
All right.
So I just dumped it in the chat, but if you look at that chart that's in the chat, since 1991, we're dead last. Dead last in the whole entire country. The worst. We're worse than. My apologies for anybody that's from West Virginia, but we're worse than West Virginia because they normally take the cake. So
that's actually, by the way, fantastic news for all of us right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So what Chip is saying is that being last over the last 20 years in housing appreciation has created a slingshot opportunity for people that want to enter the market right now. It also it's an awesome chart, Chip. Thank you for sharing that. It also means that when people say, I'm going to wait it out. You say, listen, like this demand, this is just people discovering something, and people are looking for value right now. This is the kind of market where people want a deal. We have them all. We got them all. Buying a house here is an awesome investment right now, based on what you've seen. And even at prices, like I hear agents, especially agents who've been around for a long time, they're just like, oh, it's way too hot. And it's like, but if you were to take this appreciation that we're experiencing and spread it out over the last 10 years, it wouldn't be. We would have actually been gaining 5 or 6% per year. We just didn't get any of that. And we're getting it right now, and people are recognizing it. So thanks for sharing that, Chip. I appreciate it.
I do have a question though. So it's the best time, right? Statistically, it's the best time in 30 years to sell a house in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So I may have missed it, but where do we go with the, and it's the worst time, right? Like just wait a year, you know? I've been looking at houses. I have almost pulled the trigger and bought a house for myself, not an investment property, but for myself a couple of times in the last 6 months. And every time I walk, and you know, obviously we're in the business, we're watching this stuff all the time. I keep walking away and I'm like, why would I pay these prices right now? And so what's the buyer argument? That's,
I mean, why should a buyer buy right now?
Yeah, and sorry, I'm kind of feeling my way through this, and piggybacked on the seller side of to keep with the theme of the mastermind.
Yeah.
Where do I go? Right? I want to sell, but where do I go? And there's this gap period of time, and the rental market is crazy. And
yeah. Okay. So let me address the first part of that. So if you're a buyer in today's market, the reason you want to buy is because you're going to be able to benefit from the likely appreciation if you're only concerned about the economics. The other thing is that remember those statistics that we looked at, and why do we need to know them? Inventory now is just as good a time as it's going to be in 6 months, 8 months, or a year, because inventory would literally have to double every month what it's done for the last 6 months for the next year in order for us to meet the existing demand. So it's so far out of whack with 43% absorption of everything that went on the market. It's so far out of balance that it would take such a monumental shift in the market, which it can happen. You have to give people a caveat, like, look, that can happen, but the probability that we're just going to fall off a cliff all of a sudden is pretty small. It's likely to change because what goes up must come down inevitably, but I don't think this is going to be an overnight thing. So if you want to buy a house today, now's as good as it's going to be in the next 3 years. Like if you want to wait just simply because of economics, then you got to rent for the next 3 years. But like, you know, most people buy houses for lifestyle purposes, not just for economics. So like it's part of the equation, but most of the time people are buying and selling homes because they're having babies, getting married, getting divorced, right? They're getting their first job, they're ready, they're making some money, and it's the next part of their process. So I think that it's more about when's the right time for them in their lifestyle. I certainly hear the objection that people like buyers will give you, you know, hey, I just want to wait for the market to cool down. And that's why you have to have command over this stuff and help them understand, like, that's not a likely outcome in the near future. Like, that's just not likely. The market's not just gonna suddenly cool off. Like, prices aren't gonna suddenly change that dramatically, at least based on what we've seen. It just doesn't seem likely. Does that answer your question, Chip?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how many of you guys know Andy Sachs, but Andy's the around town team. I think he just joined Keller Williams from Coldwell Banker within the last year. And I think he's the #1 team in Newtown, which is where I live. And one of the listings that we were looking at, that my wife and I looked at last week, was one of his listings. And so I was able to call him and have a super candid Keller Williams conversation, you know, and he basically said exactly the same thing that you just said. Yeah. And one of the sound bites out of that conversation, Matt, that I thought was really interesting. And he's talking to me as a real estate agent, knowing that I'm the buyer. And he's like, it's not an investment.
No, where you live is not an investment. You have to live there.
Right.
You got to live somewhere. So the fact of the matter is, like, look, buying a home is always a better option than renting if you're on a path toward wealth building. If you don't want to build wealth and making money isn't important to you, then don't worry about it. Just do whatever you want. But on a path toward wealth building, people that own homes are like 236% more likely to have, built wealth over their lifetime than people that don't. So those statistics are irrefutable. Yeah, I get it. It's an objection that you may bounce into, but now is as good a time as any. And the bottom line is inventory is not likely to change. So if you want to buy a house, you might as well pick one.
Yeah, it's great to hear it. We get so close to it that we forget the reality of what people are going through every 9 years or every 14 years in Connecticut.
Yeah, it becomes very
great
transparent.
stuff, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, so let me, Hala, do you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I think there's one question you did not answer. Where can I go?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get to it. I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah,
No problem.
I'm gonna get to the where do I go if I sell?
Yeah, and the last gentleman, he just asked you this question too, and one of his question.
I'm gonna put the objections in the front of the presentation next time because everybody's like, get to the answer, man. Come on. Awesome. Well done. Thank you, Hala.
We don't have patience. Yeah.
Here we go. Common objections. We got it. All right. I'm not listing until I find a house to buy. I'm afraid I'll be homeless. Awesome. Totally understand that. So here's the way that you answer that. So in 6 months ago or a year ago, the bigger problem of buying or selling a home wasn't that you weren't going to find a house to buy. It was, am I going to get the house sold? And now we've completely flipped. We know the minute that we put your house on the market, it's going to sell. And your concern is that you're not going to buy. However, we happen to be in the hottest sellers market that we've ever experienced. And what I'd like to do is give you more certainty rather than uncertainty. And we're in a position to really negotiate terms on your behalf. So the way that I would approach this is I would list the house. I would get the very best offer that I can, knowing that we're likely to get more than one offer and knowing that the buyers that are in the market are going to be really competitive in order to get it. And I would lock that contract up and I would give ourselves a 6-month window in order for us to go find a home of choice. And that's how I would do it. And if that would be something that would work for you, then we could list your house now and we could get certainty around what the sale price is going to be, which will then help inform us about what property we want to go buy. And I'm absolutely positive that in the next 6 months, I can find you a house. That's the,
Just
that's
did that.
What's that?
I just did that.
You did?
Yeah, with Earl Avenue.
Awesome. How'd it work?
So they need to buy a house.
Yep.
And I told them for them to have the buying power they need, we need to get their house under contract. So we priced it a little bit low. We ended up getting 20,000 over asking, and we had multiple offers so we could choose the buyer that would work with their timeline. And we bought ourselves 2 to 4 months to find a home for them, and got their place under contract. So when we do find a place, they have more buying power to have a timeline established.
There you go, Derek. Love it. Love it. That so I'm not listing until I find a house to buy. I'm afraid I'll be homeless. That is going to be an objection that you're going to face. But what you've got to do is you've got to help people understand that by listing today, you will actually be in the driver's seat to set the terms and conditions of the sale. One of those terms can simply be, I won't move or close until I have a house to buy, subject to seller finding the house of choice. That's a perfectly reasonable way for you to put your house on the market. And in this climate, buyers out there that have lost out on 5 or 6 deals are going to be okay with that. They're going to lock it up and say, okay, I'll go open-ended. I know interest rates aren't moving anywhere in the next year. And I also know that not a lot of inventory is coming on the market. So I'll lock up the deal. And by the way, so what happens if we get an offer and a buyer shows up and then the buyer changes their mind halfway through? Well, number one, they walk away from their deposit because that's not what we agreed to. And number two, you get to put your house back on the market in the hottest market we've ever had and sell it again. No big deal. Like the sellers are in such the driver's seat in this market. You just got to give them confidence that these are things that you can handle and that you're not going to leave them without an option. So that is how you handle it. You give the seller confidence that any offer that you accept, you're going to negotiate subject to seller finding a house of choice. All right. Any comments? Rob, you got your hand up.
Yeah, another avenue that I used with new listing I have coming on in Middletown was they have to sell to purchase. And I informed them that when we do find a property for them to put an offer in on with a hover clause, and that listing agent presents the offer and their property is not even on the market yet, the chances of that seller negotiating with them is going to be very slim, especially in today's market when multiple offers are coming in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it, Rob. Rob's spot on with that, guys. So if you've got buyers or if you've got sellers that have to sell to buy, which by the way is a lot of people, right? You've got to get super confident and comfortable helping them understand, hey, listen, if your house isn't even on the market yet, you have no chance competing in a multiple offer situation because they're going to take somebody that doesn't have a house to sell. So let's get your house on the market, get it under contract, subject to you getting under contract on the home that you want. And then we'll be able to have total certainty about moving forward on this. So we're going to have to do all those things in that order. So great point, Rob. I love it. Thank you. Hello, your hand's up again. No, maybe from before.
Yes.
Awesome.
Nothing now. Thank you.
Nothing. You got it. Okay. All right. I'm going to wait till the market cools down. I don't want to overpay when I buy. I kind of feel like I beat that one to death. I don't think that the market is cooling down in the next 3 to 6 months. Personally, again, I am not an economist, but based on what I've seen here, we may trend in the other direction. It may cool off a little bit, but that kind of absorption rate and that kind of demand on the lack of inventory. And oh, by the way, the consistent lack of inventory. I mean, I would be, if we had 75 listings in the hopper coming, I might be like, okay, I think we're heading toward it, but it's just not happening, right? There's not an abundance of listings coming into the marketplace. And because of that, it's unlikely to cool off anytime soon. So I think, now is as good a time as any. And obviously the opportunity to buy now, if we're going to be in this kind of a heated market for an extended period of time, prices are going to continue to go up. It's just the law of supply and demand. Supply is low, demand is high, prices go up. That's going to continue to happen. So if you buy today, you'll actually be in a better position in a year or 2 years or 3 years than if you wait, because in 2 or 3 years, the market's just going to be higher because supply is still low. I'm waiting until I get the vaccine. COVID is over. Election is over. The Patriots win the Super Bowl, whatever. Any objection, by the way, I just kind of put that in there. Any objection is a good objection. It means they're thinking about it. And at the end of the day, right, there's a difference between objections and conditions. Some of these things are conditions, and knowing the difference is really, really important. Somebody that says, I'm waiting until I get the vaccine, or COVID is over, or the election is over, some of those things are more conditions than they are objections. You have to just know who you're talking to. Somebody that's got massive fear around COVID or the vaccine or political or what's happening politically, any of those things that are going on for them, it might actually be better to just say, okay, let's check back in 6 months and see where you're at. So it's important to know the difference. So what objections do you guys hear that I didn't cover? Any others? No.
I'm tired of being outbid.
Who's tired of being outbid? I heard it.
The buyers.
The buyers, right. So the buyer says, I'm tired of being outbid.
Yeah,
I mean,
wait to get that.
I think it's super frustrating. I can't, you get a lot of people that are being outbid. And at the end of the day, the only thing you can tell them is ultimately, if buying a house is still part of your plan, this is the market that we have to compete in. And there are plenty of other things that we can do. So sometimes that objection is an opportunity for you to expand their search a little bit. So if they say, I'm tired of being outbid, and you go, well, given that it's likely or unlikely for the market conditions to change in the market that we're looking in, what are some other towns that you might consider? Or what are some other things that you might consider that we might add to the search so that we could find you something that might happen a little bit sooner? I would use that as an opportunity to get them a broader search. And again, you can't change the condition, right? You just got to make sure that they're putting their best foot forward every time. All right, let me go through a couple of tools that I think are really, really valuable for you guys. Resources. So first of all, everybody here has access to Smart MLS. And I think this is one of the best tools that we have that's the easiest to use. And you don't have to be a statistician or, a market, a data nerd like me in order to get it. You just plug into on MLS, and you've all seen those little buttons there. That button that says Fast Stats, if you click that button and you pull up a map, it pulls up a map of Connecticut. You can click on any one of those counties, or to the left, you can drop into a geography, which is a specific town, and it's going to give you this same report that you see on the right for the specific area that you went to. Guys, this is enough. All those graphs and charts that I gave you earlier, that's all great, but this data right here is enough. If you simply have this once a month, tack it up on your board, leave it on your desk, and start referencing these numbers when you're talking to people. This is a powerful resource that everybody has. You don't have to do the calculations. You don't have to do anything. And oh, by the way, you can download it as a PDF and you can mail it. You can email it. You can print it out. You can drop it off in people's mailboxes. You can do a ton with this. And it's really smart. It's really good. Visually, it's very simple. And it's a powerful tool for you to become the economist of choice in your market with the people that you know. So I would very strongly encourage everybody to plug into this and use it. That's one tool. Oh, hang on. All right, I'm going to run through a quick list here because I've gone over time and you guys have been awesome hanging out with me. Okay, some other tools. So your CRM, your database, if you don't have one, you need one. Most brokerages provide one. At Keller Williams, we have Command. I don't know what other people have, but you need some place where all of the information is for your clients and the people that you know. And you should have their home address, their email, their phone number, and their name in there. That's all you need, those 4 pieces of information. People overdo it. If you have those 4 pieces of information, you can communicate with them in 4 different ways, and you should be sending them some kind of a regular market update. We call them market reports. We work on a CRM called Brivity, and the Brivity just automatically sends them every 2 weeks an update on their specific house and what the valuation is. And it gives them a prompt to click a button and ask for a request for a local expert to come out and give them an analysis. Any work and school directories, like if you have another job or an old company that you used to work for, pull those directories out. Make some phone calls to people that you used to work with. Your kids go to school, same thing. Use those things as a resource to contact people. Hey, our kids go to school together. This is totally random. I know a lot of us would be uncomfortable making that call, but you're in a desperate situation. You've got a buyer that needs a house. We need inventory. Those are opportunities. Every Door Direct Mail is a service that is provided by the U.S. Postal Service. If you literally go on EDDM, I think it's .com. It's either .com or .gov. EDDM.gov or .com, you'll get Every Door Direct. This is a super, super accurate and inexpensive way to target market specific neighborhoods, literally down to the postal route. So if you have a buyer that wants to live in a specific neighborhood, print off the fast stats, the ones I just showed you, put them on colorful paper, on double-sided. On the other side of the paper, put your contact information. And I have a buyer looking for a home, and I think it's 16 cents a door, and you can do like 100 doors. That's just 16 bucks. So for $16, you can mail a market stats info about a buyer to a very specific neighborhood to try to find a listing. Again, another awesome way to get out there and do some stuff. Door knocking. Drop off those flyers. I'm a big fan of it. I did a ton of door knocking in my day. You got to like people to do door knocking. If you don't like people, don't door knock. They'll figure it out. And you will get every once in a while somebody say, get off my front porch. That's fine. Market reports. I just talked about that. Use your CRM for that. And I think the other thing that I think that we might have market reports on our MLS. I'm not sure if Smart MLS does it, but what you can do is set up listing alerts and listing updates in specific neighborhoods around people you know. So that's another way to try to procure listings, is set up listing updates like you would for a buyer for people that you sold houses to. Excuse me. been talking a lot, so give me a second. So your listing updates, if you use MLS for that, you're going to get some people that'll reach out to you and ask you about new listings in each market. And then your phone and your shoes. Those are my favorite tools. Frankly, to be a highly successful agent, those are the only two things you need. If you were willing to call everybody that was actually in your phone, you probably could find a listing tomorrow. I'm willing to bet most of us could if we actually did call everybody that was in our phone. So, all right, I think that's the end. So let me open it up for questions, comments, shares. I'd like to hear what you guys took away from this, what the value was, if you got anything from it. If you didn't get anything from it, don't tell me that. Just don't come next time. But if you did get something, I'm always open for some good feedback and would love to hear from you. So, so what'd you hear? Somebody just jump on in.
Yeah, my biggest thing was the gift card piece dealing with the tenants. That was huge for me because that's been the biggest thing with me with my last 2 listings in Bridgeport is they don't want to cooperate and they don't want to show the units. You know what I mean? And just instead of being a devil's, be a devil's advocate in terms of just like, hey, I know this is tough for you guys being, show us empathy and sympathy, but hey, here, take this gift card or take this little Red Lobster treat on me and take advantage of that while I show this property.
Yeah, it's always really, really important to try to put yourself in their shoes, especially with tenants. So thank you for your contribution, Devontae. I appreciate it.
Always.
All right, what else? Let me hear from somebody else. What'd you get? What'd you hear today?
I thought it was interesting that you would drive around and check out driveways that aren't plowed. It's just like next level thinking to see if you're vacant houses. It's just a smart way to attack things. Just another level. It's very smart.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Kudos to you. Yeah.
Thanks for joining. Yeah, the bottom line is that we have got to be creative. We got to go find opportunities. Like they're out there. They are absolutely out there. Like most of us, we get into this and we think in scarcity. We're thinking in terms of like, oh, there's not enough. There's not enough. That's all bullshit. There's plenty. There's plenty of opportunity out there. The only thing is we're just not putting ourselves in front of it. So we have to be much more, and I don't even like to use the word aggressive. We just have to be really conscious of where do we go to find it. And that's super, super important. So thanks for your comment, David. Appreciate it.
Even just out walking around and seeing empty houses, like you said, out for a walk.
If somebody's got an empty house right now that's not on the market, like, aren't you curious what they're thinking? Like, I'm really curious. Like, I want to know, like, why aren't you selling that thing? Like, this is like a great time to sell a house. Like, that would be a really smart thing to do. And if you're just keeping it empty, like you're paying for it, like, I don't get it. So yeah, awesome. All right, let me hear one more and then we'll wrap it up.
Hey, Matt, how you doing? It's Skylar. How's it going?
What's up, Skylar? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, not much. Hey, I just want to say, first off, I definitely appreciate this presentation. About 2 days ago, I pulled some of the data that we're talking about, and everything you said tonight just really confirmed what I already thought was happening. Right. And so it's kind of refreshing just to know that somebody else is also doing the same thing and that I'm not crazy, because you hear a lot of people talk about the bubble, but the data just doesn't really point that way. Right. So definitely I appreciate that. And thank you for giving us some of those objection handling that everybody's been asking about in terms of, hey, should I wait for the bubble to be over? Because I've been telling everybody the same thing. Like, I have no crystal ball in terms of when this drop off is going to happen. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. So
we all also, those of us that were in the business in 2007, we all have PTSD from telling people the market's hot, the market's hot, the market's hot. And then the market was not. And then it was like, wow, we got a little egg on our face. Like, oh, wow, actually the market was never hot. It was totally inflated. And so we all have a little PTSD around that, which is partly why I became a data nerd, because I always wanted to be able to speak to the numbers, not my like crystal ball projections. And the reality is that like these things are, these are happening. And, it would be a really, really difficult, it'd be very difficult for me to see this turning around quickly.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Skylar. Thank you. Hey, Jason, I see you sitting there. You've been quiet.
I'm here.
Hey guys, we are going to thank Jason Kilduff for bringing us this awesome opportunity to do this today. He's one of our sponsors. So Jay, what do we got to know about market and interest rates and what else is happening?
Well, there's a lot of news out there. You're hearing it. Rates are coming up. Rates are starting to increase. There really hasn't been that much change, right? So the rates are still low. They're still great. You know, a lot of times that if you deal with a local lender, and I'm not saying it has to be me or someone else, but you know what, local lenders are the way to go right now. Listing agents are going to feel better. The more ability to contact with the lender that's local to say the deal's solid, the better, right? You're going to have, your buyers are going to have more of a shot to get under contract if the listing agent has access to the lender, right? Whether it be at night or the weekend or anything else.
I want to speak to one thing that Jason does for our team, and that each of you guys, if you're not working with a local lender like Jason, you should give him a call. One of the things that he does is when we submit an offer and we submit a pre-qual with him, he actually calls the listing agent to let the listing agent know how strong the buyer is. And by doing that, your buyers have a much higher probability of getting their offer accepted. So
I just want a deal like that.
There you go. So I'm going to tell you guys that, you know, if you don't have a relationship with a lender who's willing to go the extra mile, then you need to call Jason. Jay, what's the best number for them to reach you at?
It's 860. I'll put it in the chat box.
All right. So make sure you reach out to Jay, because honestly, he's closing deals for us and helping our buyers get deals done. And there's no more important relationship in a real estate agent's business than the mortgage relationship and the attorney relationship. And the reason that we love working with Jay is because he doesn't drop the ball and he battles for our clients. He goes to bat for them. So really want to encourage you guys to reach out to Jay, get information. Not only that, he's just awesome and a great guy. So thank you, Jay, for supporting us.
What company is Jay from?
I'll put it all in the chat box for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Jason owns his own company. He's being humble. He owns his own company and he's awesome and he's been doing it forever. So it's Ward Kilduff Mortgage. So Devontae, you had one more comment before we wrap up?
Yes, one more comment, and I need a vendor for the situation.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, all right. So I'm gonna go with the vendor first because I need this for a client. In terms of an attorney that's in the Bridgeport area that can give guidance for evictions. If anybody would know that, please shoot an email over to me. That would be greatly appreciated.
Devontae, do you have any investor clients?
I have a lot of investor clients.
I think that's a great question for you to call them and ask them.
See, look at that. I like that.
Don't send him it. Make him call his clients and go find an opportunity.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Perfect. I like that. I like that flip.
Investor clients. I bet you one of them has an eviction attorney.
That's true. That is very true. That is very true.
And here, the script, right, is, hey, listen, I'm just reaching out. I know that you only work with the best because you work with me. And I imagine that you probably have the best eviction attorney in the area. One of my other clients is looking for an eviction attorney. Who could you recommend that I can pass over to him? They're gonna be like, oh, awesome. He only works with the best. So
exactly. All right, so I appreciate that. So next one would be what I got was my perception of me telling people before this call was, there's literally low inventories, nothing out there. But in the chart, it shows that there's really that much of a difference from last year. It's a matter of the demand is higher. So that was a huge, aha moment for me to be able to even put that when I'm speaking to potential listing clients, like, hey, this is a situation. And you're not going to get this next couple of years or now. It's hot right now.
The reason that that's so important is that when people hear no one's selling, people get nervous and scared. Why is nobody selling? What's going on? When people hear, oh no, the same number of people are selling as have been selling last 10 years. It's just that we have double the demand. Like it's the same number of houses for sale. It's just twice as many people trying to buy them all. That's a much different market than no one's selling. Much different market. Important to understand the differentiation. So thank you, Devontae.
Huge. Appreciate that. Always.
All right. Awesome. Well, I went, for the folks on the team, they're going to say this is normal. I just went 25 minutes over. which is totally normal. So I want to thank everybody for joining. This has been super fun. I hope you got a lot of value out of it. I know I did a lot of talking most of the time in these masterminds. We try to get a little more interaction, but I thought that there was enough content here that I just wanted to get you guys empowered with the right information. If you haven't already, please visit the Miale Team Mastermind page. Guys, this is just a page where we share best practices. We talk about the things that we do. I put up some videos on there, really encourage you guys to go on there. It's on Facebook. I would also ask if any of you guys want to give us a review on Facebook, on the team page. That would be a massive help for us also. 5 stars only. And appreciate all you guys. Thanks for coming. Have a good day.